We're starting the book of Samuel today, or the books of Samuel. We're in 1 Samuel, which, where'd it go? Is here, so we're moving along. I'll put that down so I can read it. And the book of Samuel begins with the story about a man who had two wives. The story's really more about one of his wives than him. His name was Elkanah, and he had, one wife's name was Penuel, and the other was named Hannah. Penuel had several children. Hannah did not have children, and it is very heartbreaking even today when someone cannot have children. It is, God wired it into us to want to have children. And Hannah was very upset. She would often cry because she didn't have any kids. And it didn't help that the other woman teased her and made fun of her because she couldn't have children. Elkanah said, am I not better than a dozen kids? But that really didn't solve her problem. So every year, they would travel to Jerusalem at the time of the Passover and make sacrifices, just like the Mosaic Law commanded them to do. And one year while she was there, she was praying. And she prayed, God, I want a son. Please give me a son. If you give me a son, I will give him back to you, and he will serve you for his whole life. Please give me a son. Well, the priest at the time was named Eli, and he saw her praying, but she was praying quietly. She was moving her lips, but no sound was coming out. So she was praying. It's how she was praying. Well, he went over to her and he said, how dare you come in the temple drunk? Because she wasn't making noise. He thought she was drunk. And she said, no, I haven't been drinking anything. I haven't even had wine, much less anything stronger than that. My soul... Yeah, they had... people are real good at making alcoholic drinks. She said, I'm not an evil person. My soul is hurting so bad. I have a request before God. And Eli said, you know what? God is going to answer your prayer. And she cheered up. She went back to camp. She had supper. She went home. And she had a baby. And she named him Samuel, which, best we can tell, means asked for from God. And the next year, when her husband went to the temple to do the sacrifices, or the tabernacle, the temple hadn't been built actually, but to the tabernacle to do sacrifices, she said, no, I'm not going. I'm going to stay home with my son until he's old enough to give to God. And her husband said, okay, whatever you say. So she stayed home with Samuel until he was old enough to leave her. And then she took him, probably he was about 4. She took him to the tabernacle, and she went to Eli and she said, do you remember so many years ago, I was here and I prayed, and you told me God was going to answer my prayer? This is the child I was praying for. And God has answered, and I promised I would give him to God, and so he is now yours. And Eli thanked her for that, and every year she would bring Samuel a new coat, probably a new robe to wear, so he always had clothes. And she'd see him that once a year when they came to the tabernacle. I don't know why my brain's not remembering tabernacle today. And Eli thanked her for Samuel. He said, he's been a gift. He's a great kid. Thank you for doing this for God. And then this is very important because Samuel, we're going to study for a while, he grows up to serve God and to be a very good man, and more than a very good man. Let's sing our song. Everybody ought to know, everybody ought to know. Everybody ought to know.
Everybody ought to know.
Everybody ought to know.